The Army and Air Force are looking to immigrants to overcome recruiting shortfalls. They've ramped up their marketing, including on social media, to entice legal immigrants to enlist. They're also using recruiters with similar backgrounds to appeal to potential recruits. But the biggest draw for migrants is the promise of a fast track to citizenship, plus jobs and education benefits. Both the Army and the Air Force have said they will not meet their recruiting goals this year.
Oh, gee. I wonder why. Hello, humans. We are back here on Issues and Answers Friday. My Country with Scott Cannon. It is 6:40 in the p.m. We just finished talking about how Ukraine is a cluster beep and how we just spent over $100 billion on a country that has nothing to do with the United States, that is a corrupt cesspool, that we knew was a corrupt cesspool, all because it makes the military-industrial complex money. So we are back now. As you heard in the intro, the newscaster talked about how the U.S. government is about to start offering immigrants an opportunity to join and fight in these endless wars that expand all around the world. And if you get an opportunity, and to give them opportunities to become citizens, if they are willing to fight. I mean, like, stuff like that is that's stuff that's under the radar. Let me get to this caller before I go deep into the story. Hello, caller.
Okay, good evening, Scott. How you doing?
What's up?
I got a quick question for you. How on this earth did America convince Russia to sell Alaska for $1 million? How did they do that?
Well, you got to remember, back in those days, Russia was a peasant country. Russia was one of the poorest countries in the world before they became communist. They were backward. They were a backwards peasant country. And one of the reasons that Russia became such a threat to the United States is because it went from poor, backwards country, and with the help of communism, became the second most powerful country in the world in like 30 years. But before that, Russia was not run well. The Russian royal family were very corrupt and, stupid.
Okay, but the whole idea, they sold away hundred and hundred. Oil never stopped coming out of Alaska. I'm quite sure it have hit billions of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Nope. This was before oil became the commodity that it was. This was I believe it was 1857 or 1847, something in that range.
When Russia, I'm talking about you talking about the time frame that Russia sold Alaska.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Let's move to one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you say the Middle East, but if we Google the word Middle East, what continent is that located on?
Right, Africa.
Man, you know what? I'm gonna get you. You you said something different earlier. I said, wait a minute. Scott, maybe he. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna just leave it at that, okay?
Okay.
Trust me, just leave it at that. Cause I had to call because I said, Scott, you're too brilliant, man, to say something different. But that's all right. When we be talking, sometimes we all say, you know what I mean.
I feel you, brother.
Be good man.
It's all good. Thank you for calling.
Okay.
And thank you for listening as well. But Russia was a peasant country for many years, and then communism turned it into the second richest, most powerful country in the world very quickly. In about a period of 30 years, by the 1960s, Russia was a humming machine. And really by the end of the 1940s, that's why at the end of World War II, we had to drop those bombs on Japan, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because Harry Truman wanted Russia to see that we had those bombs and we were willing to use those bombs, and they were anticipating that we would have to fight them because they were becoming a threat. And they were saying, look, we can't let Russia have the credit for liberating Japan. They were petrified that Japan would turn into a communist state if Russia were the ones who got to get the credit for defeating Imperial Japan. And so we hurried up and dropped those bombs to impress and to scare Russia. Killed, vaporized basically hundreds of thousands of people in a peeing contest. So that's why it's always important to remember that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were indeed war crimes performed and ordered by war criminals. But as we were talking about before the call, the U.S. military is about to start offering citizenship to these immigrants who are coming into this country en masse. And because they are not going to stop spending hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars on military misadventures around the world, like they should, instead, they see that we, as Americans, are too smart to join their military, so they are going to take and prey on these illegal immigrants. They are bringing them in here desperate, and they are bringing them in here to exploit them. So let's dig deeper into this story. The U.S. Border Patrol recorded 2,063,692 encounters with undocumented immigrants in the 2023 fiscal year, down just slightly from the record high in 2022. Over Biden's first 3 years in office, Border Patrol has recorded 5,940,511 encounters, a 277% increase from the same period during Donald Trump's term. Oh man, I wonder why Donald Trump is winning in the polls. Huh? Anybody want to tell me why Donald Trump's winning in the polls? Huh? I wonder why is Donald Trump winning in the polls, everybody? Oh man. So we are seeing a 277% increase from the same period during Donald Trump's reign as president from 2017 to 2019, according to U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. Immigration and the border are remaining top concerns for conservative voters ahead of the November 5th election, in which Biden will seek a second term, and Trump is the leading candidate for his party's nomination. After the pandemic all but shuttered the border in 2020, the post-COVID surge in border crossings, first seen in 2021, has shown little sign of slowing. Excluding migrants quickly expelled under pandemic-era rules, the Border Patrol recorded 3,295,029 apprehensions from the fiscal years 2021 to 2023, roughly coinciding with Biden's first 3 years in office. That's still a 109% increase from the 1,574,174 apprehensions recording during the same period during Trump's first 3 years in office. From fiscal 2017 to 2019, Biden's handling of the border crisis has drawn harsh criticism from the Republicans and increasingly other Democrats. They are calling for stronger action, including Arizona's government and the mayors of New York and Chicago. Attributed to the migrating surge, people are attributing the migration surge to a number of factors, including a post-pandemic recession in many origin countries, enforcement challenges in Central and South America, and a lack of enforcement resources in the U.S. So where are all those enforcement resources going to? Huh? We can't afford border enforcement resources? Where are they going? Oh my God. Oh man. They can't afford to secure the border. If only we had $113 billion. But what happened to it? Oh Lord. All right. We sent it to Ukraine and the military-industrial complex. That's right. Yes, the southern border is increasingly a global migration route. Last year's figures included 2,045,838 patrol encounters with the southern border of Mexico, as well as 10,021 at the northern border with Canada and 7,833 at other locations, including attempts to enter by the coastline from Cuba and other places. For many, attempting to cross the U.S.-Mexican border illegally last year, it represented the culmination of roughly a 3,000-mile overland journey across the continent in a desperate flight from poverty, crime, and violence at home, much of it caused by the United States. Yes, we overthrow their governments. We prop up right-wing dictators so that our corporations can go to Nicaragua, Guatemala, and other countries, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, whoever, and so our companies can make money in those countries. That's why they're starving Venezuela and trying to overthrow Venezuela's government as we speak. Now, more than 500,000 migrants crossed the dangerous Darien Gap from South America into Central America in 2023, doubled the prior year's record number and a huge increase from the roughly 9,000 recorded in 2018. Let me tell you guys, look up the Darien Gap. The Darien Gap is one of the most dangerous, perilous places on Earth. It is basically the separation between North and South America, between Panama and I believe it's Venezuela or Colombia, one of those countries. And it is basically nothing but jungle and marshland. People have tried to figure out how they could build a bridge or a road. There are no roads in the Darien Gap. You're going to have to walk and swim through it. There are all kinds of tropical diseases, which they are probably bringing here. There are all kinds of alligators and all kinds of animals, tarantula, everything you could think of in your nightmares is in that Darien Gap. And nobody can really do much to it because the terrain is just so unpleasant. Nobody can clear it. Nobody can clear it to make a road through it. Nobody could clear it to do much of anything to it. And so it's just many drug cartels are there also taking advantage of these immigrants. They are sexually assaulting the women and the children. They are buying children. They are buying women. They are killing men. They are killing women and killing children. They're doing all kinds of things. Sick people are being left to die on the side of the road, or not the road, but the side of the terrain. It is hell on earth. The Darien Gap is hell on earth. And these people are traversing through that to get here. Now the question is, why are they being allowed to do that? Why are they being incentivized to do that? The lengthy and dangerous journey is increasingly a global migration route, drawing migrants from all over the world, including Africa and Asia. Yeah, we're bringing a lot of Chinese. Border Patrol agents apprehended 24,000 Chinese nationals illegally crossing the southern border, a staggering increase from the 991 encountered at the Mexican border in 2018, which was Donald Trump's first full year in office. Immigration from China surged following the country's years of harsh pandemic lockdowns, which put a damper on the country's economy and prompted disillusion with its authoritarian government, as well as 2023 U.S. Customs and Border Protection statistics show 41,719 southern border encounters with Indian nationals and 15,000 with migrants from Turkey. Turkey! People are coming from Turkey to cross the Mexican border. Increases of 364% and 29,500%, respectively, since 2018. Now, last year, 24 times more Cuban nationals attempted to enter the U.S. through the southern land border than by boat along the coast, the data shows. For decades, Mexicans accounted for the majority of illegal crossings at the southern border, but flows have shifted over the last decade to Central Americans, and more recently, people from South America, Africa, and Asia. So it's not just Juan and Jose anymore. Okay, it's, Ping Pong and Ching Chong and Mobutu, or not, well, maybe not Mobutu. Okay, it's probably not Mobutu. Okay, I think he died. But Mutombo, it might be him. Okay. In September, the number of Venezuelans arrested trying to cross the southern border briefly exceeded the number of Mexican nationals. Guatemalans, Hondurans, Colombians rounded out the top 5 for the month. Now, it's important to understand that Biden's border policy somewhat differ from Donald Trump's. Biden has changed a number of Trump-era policies, with his administration saying its goal is to secure our border and rebuild with a safe, orderly, and humane immigration system, which the White House says was gutted by the previous administration. Following a court battle, Joe Biden rolled back Donald Trump's policy known as Remain in Mexico. I like that policy. Remain in Mexico. That means not in America. Remain in Mexico. That sounds pretty good to me. The policy required asylum seekers to wait in Mexico for their immigration hearings to play out in the U.S. Biden called the policy inhumane, and human rights groups said it put migrants at risk from criminal gangs in Mexico as they pleaded their asylum cases. Yes, Joe Biden cares so much about inhumane treatment while he helps Israel completely ethnically cleanse Palestinians, half of whom are children under the age of 18, who are starving to death in mass, and 3/4 of the people currently starving on the planet are in the Gaza Strip. But yes, Joe Biden cares so much about humane treatment of people who are suffering. About 70,000 people were returned to Mexico under the policy, which Biden eventually rolled back in June 2022 after a Supreme Court ruling allowed his administration to terminate the policy. I don't support that. No. Yeah, we boo that. Remain in Mexico. That's my joint. So as well, Joe Biden eventually rolled back Title 42. The pandemic era policy that allowed for quick expulsion of migrants, including asylum seekers. Yes, let's boo that as well. So between Trump's implementation of the policy in March 2020 and the time he left office in January 2021, 400,000 people were expelled under Title 42. Yes, there we go. The Biden administration also launched the CBP One Mobile app, which allows asylum seekers to submit their information and schedule appointments at a point of entry rather than risking their lives entering illegally crossing across a desert or river. Starting in May, when the app launched, migrants who attempt to enter the U.S. irregularly without using CBP One are largely ineligible to apply for asylum. Congressional Republicans are currently threatening to torpedo emergency funding for Ukraine and threatening to force a government shutdown if they can't extract new tough concessions on the border.
Yes! Yes!
I support that. Sorry, Democrats, but if you're going to let the Republicans be the ones having common sense about this, then hey, it is what it is. Johnson's also called on the Democratic-led Senate to approve a bill passed by the House in May that would effectively end access to asylum at the border. I also support that. As my man Sean Paul said, deport them. Yes. And now, what is the effect? Sanctuary cities are buckling under the strain of the migrant influx. The influx of migrants and surge of buses organized by border states to transport migrants to so-called sanctuary cities have stretched the resources of many of those cities. New York City alone has absorbed more than 126,000 new asylum seekers. Dang. Since spring of 2022, Texas has spent more than 95,000 migrants to New York City, Chicago, and Denver in protest of Biden immigration policies. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said last month, New York City is suing more than a dozen charter bus companies for $700 million and accusing them of illegally transporting tens of millions of migrants from the southern border to the city. The lawsuit is accusing 17 bus companies of participating in a bad faith relocation plan that violates state restrictions on abandoning needy persons in New York. It seeks financial damages to cover the cost of caring for an estimated 33,000 migrants that have arrived to the city on charter buses since spring of 22. How about you folks take that energy and sue the Biden administration for bringing them in here? Okay, now we got to have smoke for some of our politicians here, because East Chicago and Gary are welcoming cities, which are basically sanctuary cities on crack. Now, this was in the paper this week here in this area. The state of Indiana's Attorney General Todd Rokita is laying the groundwork to once again target the welcoming city policies of Gary and East Chicago as the immigration-focused Republican campaigns this year for elections. The Senate Committee on I gotta cheer that.
Yeah, boy.
Yes, yeah, boy is right, Pops. The Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Transportation this week advanced legislation potentially giving Rokita a second chance to argue against the policies of both cities to prioritize local public safety needs and protect the rights of immigrants, violate Indiana's 2011 prohibition on sanctuary cities. In 2022, the Indiana Supreme Court dismissed the sanctuary city claim against Gary following 5 years of litigation after 5 Republican-appointed justices concluded that the 4 Indiana residents who filed suit against the Steel City lack sufficient standing since they've suffered no injury due to Gary's ordinance, which is crap. But this is once again what I talk about on this show all the time. This is what happens when your politicians and the people who are supposed to be looking out for you as black people are compromised and owned by liberals, white liberals, who have no plan for black people other than to exploit. They are there to exploit our issues and to push their cultural agendas, the looga booga tugga kamugga agendas. They, where your son is wearing a dress and your daughter's, dressed like Herman Munster or something. And that's what they use us for. They are not here to actually, in good faith, support the black community. This is why Malcolm X talked about liberals being more dangerous to black people than even conservatives are. And Lord knows I don't like the conservatives either. But as Malcolm X put, it's the wolf and the fox. The wolf is scary. You know the wolf is scary. You know to stay away from the wolf. The fox, on the other hand, you turn your back and you beat and found out that all the chickens in your chicken coop have been eaten by that fox who's smiling at you and pretending that it's your friend. And that's what we have here. So that's why we have politicians in the city of Gary, Indiana, and Chicago, black people talking about, oh, we're a sanctuary city. Oh, we're a sanctuary. How does that benefit the black community? Huh? How does that benefit the black community in one way whatsoever? It does not. You don't see the Congressional Black Congress or any of these useless Negroes in Congress saying much of anything about this. Coretta Scott King said something about it. A. Philip Randolph said something about it. Barbara Jordan said something about it. Cesar Chavez said a lot about it. This is what Cesar Chavez had to say about illegal immigration.
The Mexican government to bring the Bracero program again. It's a vicious attack on the local worker, and it's just one of those things that agribusiness thinks they can get away with it. And our job is to inform the whole country what's happening together with a boycott and solve it that way. And so the workers themselves, even though a lot of them are Mexican descendancy themselves, are very uptight and very, very worried and very mad about the illegals coming to break their strikes, and it takes away their jobs, their livelihood, and so forth.
There you go. Cesar Chavez calling out illegal immigration for what it was. Let's go to Obama. Obama talked about illegal immigration before the Democratic Party completely lost their ever-loving mind. Barack Obama talked about it.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem, and the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. And so what we have to do is create a comprehensive solution to the problem. Now, I have already stated that as president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need.
Yes. If there's one thing I will say for Obama, he did not hesitate to deport a hell of a lot of people. If there's one thing I liked about Barack Obama, and you guys know if you listen to the show, I am not a fan of the bougie Obamas. He deported a hell of a lot of people. He deported more people than every president in American history. He deported more people than every president in the 20th century combined. Okay? Liberals weren't calling him racist when he was doing it. Even, but there is a reason for this. And I told you guys at the top of the show, I have receipts. When I do stuff like this, I have receipts. There is a reason this is being allowed to happen, that we are being allowed to be inundated with illegal migrants. And yes, they are illegal migrants because they ain't from here. If somebody breaks into your house, they're an illegal occupant in their house. I don't care how much they're starving, how hungry they are. I don't care who used to own the house 30 years ago or 40 years ago. If somebody breaks into your house, they are an illegal occupant. And if you break into somebody's country, I don't care who had it 500 years ago. We all know how white folks got America, but it is America. And right now, it is illegal occupation. Okay? Those people are illegal immigrants. They are illegals. That's what Cesar Chavez called them. That's what Coretta Scott King called them, and A. Philip Randolph, and everybody else. Barack Obama, and everybody else with any common sense. Bill Clinton, when he was in the 90s. Barbara Jordan. These are Democrats and left-wing people. Bernie Sanders. But as I said, there's a reason for this. The man who served with Barack Obama from Illinois in Congress, Senator Dick Durbin. If you've paid attention to any politics whatsoever, from Channel 2, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 32, Channel 50, for the last 30, 40 years, you know who Dick Durbin is. This is what Dick Durbin had to say about it. I was stunned listening to this. Listen to this.
To remove from being an immigrant to this country. And yet there's been resistance throughout our history, unless we needed cheap labor to build the Transcontinental Railroad when we invited Chinese workers to come in. We treated them, unfortunately, in an inhumane fashion, and didn't give them largely eligibility to become citizens. But we needed the labor, we needed the workers. It's happened many times before. What troubles me about the debate now about the southern border is it is one half of the immigration equation. Yes, we need order at the border. Yes, we need to have changes in the laws that reflect the reality of the overwhelming numbers from all over the world who are coming to our shores and our border. But there is also an incredible demand for legal immigration into this country even now. The presiding officer, my colleague from the state of Illinois, has legislation which addresses one aspect of that. Her bill, and I hope I describe it accurately, says that if you're an undocumented person in this country and you can pass the physical and the required test, background test, the like, you can serve in our military, and if you do it honorably, we will make you citizens of the United States. Do we need that? Do you know what the recruiting numbers are at the Army and the Navy and the Air Force? They can't reach their quotas each month. They can't find enough people to join our military forces. And there are those who are undocumented who want the chance to serve and risk their lives for this country.
There you go. There you go. It all intersects, right? It takes us right back to the first segment, the military-industrial complex. These idiots do not want to end the war-industrial complex. Oh, no, we're not going to stop propping up Ukraine and Israel, and we're not going to stop bombing the hell out of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Somalia, and every other country in the Middle East. Oh, no, we're just going to bring in a bunch of illegal immigrants and induct them into the army, and then they'll be the ones over there dying for the United States of America. It's so brilliant. This is what brought Rome down, folks. This is literally what brought down Rome. They got a bunch of foreigners to be in their military, and then eventually the foreigners said, wait a minute. Wait a minute, why are we doing what these idiots say? You know, we're the military. What a dumbass. I'm sorry, Lord, forgive me. Look, scratch that last quip, that last sentence. Lord, forgive me. And the FCC. Yeah, okay. All right, folks. So now you see what the real deal is. You see what the game is. They are bringing these people in here to serve in the military so they can continue to send hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries to fight stupid wars that only enrich the military-industrial complex. And they don't have to fix the roads in Gary. They don't have to fix our schools. They don't have to give the people in Flint, Michigan water. They don't have to do a doggone thing other than continue to go around the world robbing and pillaging other countries, particularly in the global South's resources. And then they will get the citizens of said countries to help them do it because they will be fighting for the U.S. military. Wow. Dick Durbin just out in the open with it. Just out in the open with it. All right, folks. We're going to lighten the mood when we come back. It is 7:13 already. Oh, my God. I went on for a long time. I got to go to a break. But when we come back, happy.